Hello and welcome to this week's Beyond the Hub, where we talk about everything from sales to marketing to your business as a whole. And today I've got Nigel Dunand here from Sandler. Welcome, Nigel. It's great to have you. For those who don't know who you are and what you do, can you give us a little brief introduction?
Yeah, well, my name's Nigel Dunand. I run the heart of England, Birmingham training centre of Sandler Training. A lot of people, I think, know Sandler Training. We're a global sales training, sales leadership, sales development, sales consulting organization. And Bridget, I'm thrilled that you invited me to do this. Sandler and HubSpot have this great corporate relationship. And this has been wonderful having a more local relationship with Babel Quest, and working together with some of your clients and you working with some of our clients, I think has been wonderful. You do all the technical stuff.
We do.
I am not good with IT. But
But you are good with goals, specifically sales goals, sales teams goals, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, you've got a great resource PDF, which is all about the 6 questions that will help your sales team set goals, which I'll put in a link to that below in the comments as well. And we're going to dig into that a little bit today. So starting off a little bit contextual. In that PDF, for those hasn't read it so far, you mentioned that less than 20% of sales people set written goals. And you've obviously got a lot of experience here. So why do you think so few do that? And then why is that a bad thing that people should change?
okay, so I'll do the second one first. So
Mhm.
um, so really at Sandler, we're in the behavioral change business. Uh, Companies or individuals wanting different results, they know they have to change their behaviors. And we have found one of the easiest ways to get people to change their habits, their thought patterns, and their behaviors is if they just get clarity on what their goals are, their
Mm.
personal goals as well as their professional goals. And if we have that clarity on what we want out of life, it makes day-to-day stuff a lot easier. Those little decisions, do I turn left? Do I turn right? It's much easier if we know roughly where we're headed. Um, to answer the first part of the question, why do so few salespeople set goals? I think that's because so few people actually set goals. We were never taught this at school. In fact, we probably acquired some pretty bad habits in school.
Oh.
I know for me, certainly, if ever I was caught staring out of the window, imagining what my future might be, I would get a whack round the head and be accused of daydreaming.
Mhm.
But it turns out that taking time to do that sort of daydreaming stuff, to have a bit of a vision for where you want to go, is very powerful. It gets us geared up to visualizing ourselves in the future.
Mhm.
Now, the bit that also they don't tell us to do this in school, but it's important, is to then start to document this and write this down. That if we struggle, so 2 ways to get started on this, and I wish again I'd been taught this at school. No one did.
Mm.
Um, 2 ways to do this. One is just write down what your goals are, and we can talk about format for that. But also another really good way to do it is the old Blue Peter exercise, which is create a vision board. So
Yes.
cut out pictures from magazines, or nowadays people download them from the internet. Um, but if you have personal interest magazines at home, travel, home magazine, leisure, hobbies, fishing, car racing, good housekeeping, whatever you do, you'll find that that is an indicator of the sort of stuff that you're interested in. And you'll find some of those pictures there. You can cut and paste them onto a big sheet of paper and use that to describe visually what you want your life to look like in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. And then if we just do that, and I'll guarantee anyone you'll have tremendous success with this if you do it. If you create a cut and paste dream board and put it up on the refrigerator, let's say in the kitchen, people, when they come round to your house, will ask you, "What's this about?" And then you'll say, "Well, this is a bit, this is a bit woo woo, all right? Visualization of my future here. And as you can see, I like to go hiking, I like to go skiing, and in 5 years' time, I'd like to have a house at the beach or an extension to this house or a pond in the garden, whatever it is." And you just talk people through that vision. It's very helpful because you're reminding yourself that that is the vision and you're holding yourself accountable for that. And then it makes it easier for people later on when they talk to you, meet you in town for a coffee. "Hey, how are you going on with getting on with that, your plans for that extension?" Keeps you focused.
And what you've really kind of emphasized there is it's not just career goals, it's like it's everything. So in your PDF, you talk about I think there's 8 different areas. So there's, your personal life, so social, there's spiritual, there's health, there's loads of these different areas. So how does that approach to goal setting contribute to their success in sales? How does it all
Okay.
relate?
So I think there's a huge myth and a bit of a blind spot for business owners or people that run companies. They assume we've got our company mission, vision, goals, whatever, and they assume that their people, their staff, will get up early in the morning, all energized to help the company reach these goals.
Yeah.
It's a nonsense. But what people will do is they'll get up early in the morning, really, really enthusiastic to achieve their own goals.
Mm-hmm.
So the key bit here is to figure out how do our personal goals align with the company goals, and then what are those actions we need to be taking. Now, there's a danger if we get too focused on professional goals.
Mm.
For example, if we are if all we're doing is thinking out our professional goals and our going up the career ladder, if ever you get fired or the company goes out of business or gets bought out or something like this, our whole sense of self-worth and identity risks taking a huge shock. However, if we have, and we call those 8 areas of life, when we do the exercise, we call it a balance wheel. It's a life balance. We draw it as those 8 areas are spokes on a wheel. And you rate yourself 1 to 10 in each of these areas. And then you'll see if you have, for example, if you've been a real career person and you have neglected friends,
Yep.
the
Or your
score
health
for your
as well.
friends, or
Yeah.
health or whatever, is going to be very low. So the exercise we do is I have people draw this on a bit of paper, then you cut it out, you stick a hole and a pencil through the middle bit, and then you just ask, "Hey, how bumpy is your ride?"
Oh, nice and visual
It's
again.
very visual and kinesthetic. And
Yes.
then it makes you realize, oh, I shouldn't just purely be focused on this one area. And there are some people, different personality types, like myself, that can get really overly focused very easily in one area.
Mm-hmm.
So if we see goal setting as a process rather than a singular event, and we review our goals on a quarterly basis or ad hoc, whatever, but you do it regularly, then this gives you multiple occasions throughout the year to remind yourself, hey, there's more to life than the office.
Yes. I love that. And it's quite a deep conversation because you're talking about all these other different areas of your life. And you kind of need a supportive environment to have this conversation with your manager, with your team, because they can be quite sensitive, personal goals and things. So
Yeah.
how can managers make sure that they're creating that safe space for people?
Okay, so 2 things for this I would suggest. Number 1, when you hire people in that interview, it's good to share with them a little talk track. That talk track map sounds like, hey, by the way, just to let you know, we have a culture of goal setting and sharing goals, not just professional goals, but personal goals.
Mm,
Are you going to be okay with that? So you let them know in the interview.
that's good. Yeah.
So, and if you do that, then now that's a behavioral track for the manager to now spend some time on goal setting. So, and then if you, as a company,
Hmm.
get together, um, I'm often invited to facilitate on these things, but you don't need to. I mean, certainly, anyone that's seen me facilitate this session once, I just tell them to do it on their own. Facilitate a cut and paste session and get them started with creating a little binder for those 8 areas of your life that we said. That's all you need to do. Get them started, and then you review this every 6 months or every quarter. You can do it departmentally, or you can do it company wide,
Hmm.
and it just gets that goal setting conversation going. Now, weekly, the manager if the manager has had a good quarterly review meeting with an employee and has asked them about what their personal goals are, the first time you ask someone for their personal goals, it's so difficult because no one's asked these questions and then
Yeah.
don't even know how to have the conversation around it. So a good way to get it starting is that group session where you do the group cut and paste and you're sharing stuff as a group.
Hmm.
It's helpful if the manager, the owner, the boss also makes themselves vulnerable and they also join in the exercise, sharing their own personal cut and paste and talking people through it.
Leading by example.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, I've got to tell you this story because it's so good. This is, again, one of the most successful ways of getting instant results, although you wouldn't think it. So I did this cut and paste exercise for a company out in Malvern. And at the exercise, in the room, we probably had about close to 20 people. So it was a bit of
Hmm.
a bit chaotic.
Yeah, it's a lot
Magazines
in a
all over the
room.
place. Yeah. Scissors, cut and paste.
Glue.
People running around with scissors. Glue. People yelling across the room, hey, have you got a picture of a sailing boat? You know, that sort of stuff. But it's fun. And in an hour, you can put a cut and paste together. And then at your tables, because we had 20 people, I didn't have enough time for all 20. So 5 or 4 tables, 5 on each table. They then individually go at the table,
Mm.
share with the other people around the table. Here, this is what this is about. This is depicting this. This is this. Anyway, one of these guys happened to say at the table, yeah, I really want to do a trip around America with my girlfriend. I know where I want to go. I've got started to save the money for it. Um, blah blah blah. Anyway, at the table was one of the directors, and the director happened to ask him and say, "Hey, you say you got money saved for this?" He says, "Yeah." He says, well, "What's stopping you then?" He says, "Well, it's just the flights. They're going to be expensive because we have to fly out to
Yeah, of course.
California, whatever." Anyway, and the director said, I don't know whether we can do this, but he says, but I have loads of frequent flyer miles. Like, I don't know what to do with my frequent flyer miles. And so now at right, so instant gratification on this thing. They
Mm.
arranged to meet to talk about whether they could transfer those frequent flyer miles over to him. So this is the goal
Oh,
that he's had and instant results. Now that got shared with the rest of the room, and of course, then everyone understands the power of sharing those goals.
yeah,
Once you share
absolutely.
your goals, it's amazing what will happen.
A caveat to everyone watching this, we can't guarantee that your director will pay for your flights to America, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, but you see what the thing, there's always someone there
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
it could just, oh, yeah, we're moving house and we're saving for the stuff and blah, blah, blah. This happens quite a lot. Like, hey, listen, we just downsized, you know, see me afterwards because I've got stuff I need to get rid of. That happens a lot in these goals.
And just advice as well. Like, even if that person hadn't given him the flights, or well, we hope that he did in the end, but he could have said, "Oh, I've been there before. This is my to-do list. You should must see, etc."
Yes, and that's a really good point. When when we know what somebody else's personal goals are, it's part of the human condition. We want to help them. Now, not everyone, but that doesn't matter. You just because there are so many people out there that enjoy helping people with their goals, you're just creating an opportunity for that to happen.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
do the cut and paste, put it on the refrigerator or in the downstairs loo. It doesn't really matter. Just so when visitors come, they can comment on it and ask you about it. That's a reminder for you also to keep this thing sort of up to date.
Mhm. And then
And yeah,
once they've got all of these different areas, the 6 questions. Let's
yes,
get on to the 6 questions. So let's go through them. So the first one, how committed are you to achieving this goal and why? That's
yes,
number one, right?
yes.
What are the following ones? They are, what will
Okay, we
achieving this goal do for you as a person?
correct, which is
What,
related. Yep, go ahead.
yeah, what behaviors will you have to change to accomplish this goal? I can see that one maybe being a bit of a friction one. I'm sure people will have to kind of look deep down when they answer this one. Would you say?
Well, it depends. So let me maybe share an example here. So
Mhm.
um, th there was had a client there, and they were going through this awful process of moving house, and they're wanting to buy another house, and blah 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 blah, and it was just overwhelming for them. And they wanted to get the most money they possibly could for their house, blah blah blah. So anyway, they ended up as an action, a simple action. They were going to spend 2 hours a week, which wasn't a lot. Saturday morning, the guy figured out Saturday morning. On those Saturday mornings, he would spend 2 hours a week cleaning out the shed at the bottom of the garden, cleaning out the garage, going out the attic, whatever, and just getting stuff cleared out. So it would make it easier for when the photographer came in from the estate agents. Do you see what I mean? And
Yeah.
and so he said, "Well, I should just start by cleaning stuff out." And then somebody else asked him, "Okay, well, when are you going to do that?" And he says, "Well, best time Saturday morning before everyone's up. I can just do that early in the morning, blah, blah, blah."
Mhm.
So he changed his habit from lying in bed doing nothing or taking the dog for a walk or whatever to 2 hours tidying stuff up. It could be that simple. And now, but you get instant gratification from that, you
And
know?
I guess that kind of translates over to a work situation is when he achieves that goal, he's going to be a much happier person. He's going to be really content. He's going to be really motivated, and that naturally comes over into your workplace as well, doesn't it?
I think the this it's really good to acquire a habit of, oh, I set myself a goal. I
Mhm.
break it down into small bits that I'm completely in control of. I commit to doing it and I do it.
Mhm.
And if we get into that habit, then it actually, a couple of things really happen. First of all, we experience
Yeah.
far less stress, because we know we're not second guessing ourselves every moment of the day, thinking, am I really doing what's important in life? You know, that nagging thought in the back of your mind here. You're working towards something that you can accomplish. And secondly, it actually means we end up being way less busy. If we're clear about our goals are and what actions we need to take to achieve those goals, we get those other distractions we just can ignore a lot easier. Does that
Mm.
make sense? So
Yeah.
by having clear goals, understanding why they're important to us, because some of these tasks, cleaning out a shed, is not very motivating,
No.
but the vision board of the new house that you want to move to, that picture there, that's the motivational. And why do you want to do that? Oh, so I can have a happy family, etc. You know, I can fish in the river that's down the road or whatever it is. Have a really good understanding of that. It keeps us focused, motivated, and just less busy doing stuff that's not productive,
Yeah,
and, and
absolutely.
a much happier life, especially if we keep things in perspective, not just looking at one area. Is that?
Which is why there's the 8. So
Yeah.
the next 3 questions we did the first
Yeah.
3. So the next 3 questions are who would be an appropriate accountability partner for you on this
Yes.
goal? What is the next step you should take to achieve this goal? And how will you celebrate when you achieve this goal? So I want to talk about the accountability partner because for context, I have to have a coach at the gym. Like I know what to do at the gym. I know what to do, but I need a coach to keep
Yes.
accountable. So what role does this accountability play when it comes to achieving those sales goals? And I think what's important is who, like, what qualities should those people be
Yes.
looking for in a partner for the accountability?
Okay, so I love that, and that is a
Mm.
fantastic example. Now, I would venture to let me take a guess here,
Mhm.
but now your coach is also showing you what to do at the gym and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and
But
plan.
even if they weren't doing that, and you knew that they were there, and if you didn't turn up, they would know that you weren't there.
Yeah.
So if you've got to have a certain amount of respect for that person and not want to let them down or not want to be seen to be letting yourself down, more importantly, in the eyes of that person.
Hmm.
That's a sort of good example there for what a good accountability partner looks like. The accountability partner you pick is the one that helps you achieve all those little things in order to get to those goals. If you have an accountability partner and you find you're not turning up to the meetings, or he's not holding you accountable, or she is not holding you, and it's just not, get another accountability partner.
Yeah.
And the so when I first started off in this business, I had come from a business where I had a big fat salary and a nice job and big corporate stuff and whatever. And then I set up this training business where I had nothing, and I had to make, you know, prospecting, cold calls, and I had to go networking, and I had what we call a cookbook of activities that I had to do in order to grow the business. We call it the cookbook.
Hmm.
And each day and each week, I knew there were certain things I had to do. These were these little steps towards the big goal. Anyway, my accountability partner for a while was my son, 4 years
Ah,
old, 3 years old, 3 years old. What happened was, whenever I got back from work, I trained him to ask me the following question. Hey, Daddy, did you do your cookbook? Like, he knew what a cookbook was because that's what Mum uses to
of
come up
course.
with dinner, right? My cookbook, and the follow-up question was anyway. So and I would always I couldn't lie to him. So, but if I hesitated and I found myself lying to him because I couldn't say no, I didn't do the cookbook, that was such a punishment on me.
Yeah, you
Usually,
felt the guilt
yeah,
then.
usually I ended up having telling the truth, because if I lied to him, I felt awful. I couldn't lie to him. Good accountability partner is someone you can't lie to, right?
Yes.
Now, so because it would be like lying to myself. So I then, if ever I said, "Oh no, well, Charlie, I sort of did it. I did about half of it. I didn't get it all done, but I have for the last 6 days in a row. So can you forget?" I'm negotiating with a 3-year-old. It's crazy. But anyway, I trained him. If I said no, he had to stick his bottom lip out and then say the following: "Daddy, does that mean we're not going to Disney World?" Okay, so do you see that's a huge motivator for me right there, right?
Yeah.
How often do you think I did my cookbook versus not doing my cookbook?
You're going to have to do that every single day because you do
Exactly.
not want your child to say that.
So later on, it gets a bit more sophisticated and whatever, but I got another accountability partner. But I just want to illustrate that the accountability partner you pick is what is now. If that didn't work for me, I would get another accountability partner. Now, I found out later on I needed to have a bit more than a binary yes or no conversation with someone,
Yes.
because I needed someone who could then ask me the next layer of questions, which is, okay, so fine. What are you going to do to make sure you do this next week? Have you got the time blocked out in the diary?
Hmm.
Hey, and let's double check, Nigel. This is 3 times in a row you haven't done that. Are you sure you really got that emotional attachment to your goals, or is that what's preventing you from doing it? That's
They kind of need to coach you through it, don't they? And I
yes,
think what's really good with your example is you also need somebody who isn't going to let you get away with it. Every single week I say, "Oh, we need to eat a bit healthier this week. We need to eat a bit
yeah,
healthier," and my husband just goes along with it and lets me. If I buy a chocolate cake, he's not going to say no.
yeah.
So we are not good accountability
No,
partners for each other because we
that's
let each
very
other
good
get away with
example.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
The
So, but I would suggest also that it's interesting with an accountability partner. So, general rule is pick someone who, if you want one for the purposes that we're talking about, if you're in sales, for example, pick someone who you respect, who is as equally ambitious and as motivated to success as you, and then you hold each other accountable.
Mm.
And one of the first things you learn with your accountability partner is no need to beat them up. Because if you ask your account, did you do it? Did you not do it? And they say no, you don't need to be all critical parent. Well, why is that? Blah, blah, blah. Instead, it's just very nurturing. Okay, great. Tell me about that. What went wrong? Is that because you didn't schedule enough time in your diary to do it? Or is it because you scheduled the time and then something else came and interrupted you?
Mhm.
What are you going to do next week to make sure that you don't have the same problem again, etc. So it's very simple. You don't have to understand each other's business. You don't need to be selling the same stuff. You don't even need to both be in sales. It's just you've got a professional goal that you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. And I think what we should speak about next is what happens when you achieve that goal, which is there's the whole question around celebrating the achievement of your goal. So how can they
Okay, well,
incorporate
yeah.
that?
So I want to celebrate. If we've got a goal of moving house by 2030, let's say, right?
Mhm.
You can't wait until 2030, right? But if you've broken it down into little goals,
Mhm.
you're giving yourself an excuse to celebrate every time you achieve one of those little goals. So the guy spends 2 hours clearing out the shed, going back to that guy.
Mhm.
And did you spend 2 hours? Yes, I did. What's your reward? Oh, you know what? And have a very nice cup of coffee. I
I was
might
going to say a cup of tea and a couple of
It
biscuits.
could be something like that. Yeah, it's a you can do that. You can and by the way, I'm rewarding myself for having spent the 2 hours cleaning
Hmm.
out the shed. Um, some which is a good interim goal. Now, somebody might say, you know what, I'm also going to set myself a reward when the shed is actually cleared out, repainted, blah blah, whatever it is, and it's looking good. So then you might set yourself another reward for that. Um, it's funnily enough, that's a good job with the accountability partner is to ask, what's your reward going to be? Because people forget.
Yes.
Instant gratification works really, really well. And I mean, sometimes it's just nice. You meet your accountability partner in person or whatever, and it's in the pub, and they buy you the beer, and it's just like,
That's
hey,
a lovely reward.
did you think? Yeah, it's that simple. It's now you would have bought the beer anyway, but it's not costing you any extra, but it's the gesture, it's the acknowledgement. And we
Mm.
get that little bit of a psychological pat on the back, and it creates that connection between the brain and the heart and the action. Does that?
Yeah, I love that. So having those small moments of joy that you're kind of giving, that's the ongoing motivation to get to that bigger one.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And then the question around the next step. So that question was, what is the next step you should take to achieve this goal? So with that one, how can they break it down into smaller steps? So we've kind of spoken about, rewarding yourself when you've broken it down for when you're moving and you have these clearing out tasks. So how can in a sales capacity in a sales in a kind of career one maybe
Yep.
how can people break down these larger goals into smaller ones? Because I
Right.
think it can be quite difficult to go from macro to micro, can't it?
Yes. So often the bigger goal is something that's very tangible and very measurable. So it could be a sales number, let's say, or a
Yeah.
number of new customers, or it's usually those type. Now, if it's a marketing goal, it might be slightly different. But anyway, you've got your goal. Um, the it's important, I believe, to break it down into and ask ourselves, what's the smallest behavioral step I can take?
Mhm.
So, for example, if someone needs 5 new customers a month, at some point they know they got to pick up the phone and call people in
Yes.
order to get an appointment, in order to stand a chance of winning the business, let's say. Okay.
Mhm.
So you could break this down into the number of phone calls you're going to have to make every week and every day.
Yes, and this is what's on your cookbook dashboard, isn't
That's
it?
on the cookbook
The
dashboard.
minimum.
However, the first behavior that you can give yourselves a reward for is blocking out that time in the diary.
Mm,
Now, this is an amazing thing. If we're worried, we're feeling, oh, I'm not going to get, I'm not going to hit my sales goals. I'm not going to make the money I need, and therefore I'm not going to go on the holiday I want to go on, and therefore my family's going to be upset with me, and then my wife's going to divorce me, and then I'm going to lose half of everything, and then I'm going to be living out on the leave the home, and then I'm going to be living on the street, and then I'm going to be, and you go into this. I'm exaggerating,
overwhelming
but we
spiral.
go into this death spiral of stuff. All right. We can stop that worry by the first step is, you know what? I have to do uh I've got to do 25 dials this week.
Mhm.
My marketing department's going to supply with the leads, or I might have to do a bit of
Yeah.
research. But anyway, I'll block off the time to make those calls. I might have to block off some extra time to make the research to get the numbers. But what if I just put that in my diary? And that's 25. I can block that. I can break that down to that's 5 dials a day. That's half an hour.
It's
Now,
much more manageable.
much more manageable. And um, there's another little tip on another white paper that I did that, this is a concept of reverse your day. Most people in sales or who run a business, they they start off by checking their email and then taking care of emergencies and then taking care of customers and taking care of and then I know it's important for me to make these things, so I'll also make some phone calls. But by then it's 4:30 or 5 o'clock, your energy's flagging, and you'll give yourself any sort of excuse not to do it. So
Mhm.
reverse the day, do that stuff first. Maybe not literally first, because if you get in the office at 8 o'clock, people aren't answering the phone till
No one's
9.
going to answer. They're at
Yeah.
breakfast.
But the point is you just switch the priority around on this thing, give it top priority. It's only half an hour. And now just by doing that, you will feel way, way better because you'll reward yourself for the fact that you blocked the time off in the diary. That's the step one. Once you've always got that time blocked in the diary, now you're going to have to give yourself a reward when you actually do it in that time that you blocked off. Because that's
Mhm.
another habit that you have to create. And then, did you actually make the right number of dials in that spot? Yeah, now that's another excuse to give you a self reward. And now before you know where you are, you've rewarded yourself and you've built, and now you're in the habit of making 25 dials a day, and you're in your mind now, I'm a prospecting machine. You didn't start off that way,
No, and you
but
wouldn't
you've
have
built up to it,
known to prioritize that either unless you had that bigger goal that you'd broken down.
which is what, yes. And that's why it's so important to not just, so this was on question one there, it was um, make sure that you know why that's a goal for you,
Yes, the why.
the why. If we're not careful, and this is where you need help, I think sometimes a bit of a coach. I find myself asking people whether is that really your goal or is that just the goal you think you should have?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why? What is it? What is it you really want?
Yeah, bringing it back to that one person.
Yes.
I love that. We are coming up to time now, so I've just got
Great.
one more question, which is
Yeah.
obviously we've gone over those 6 questions that you mentioned and the 8 different areas that people need to ask those questions in. So what other advice, if there is any, or if that's everything, that's fine, but what other advice would you give to salespeople who are looking to set and achieve their goals?
So if we're starting out, are we talking about someone starting out in sales or someone
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. It could be
okay?
anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, and this applies actually probably to anyone, but if you're starting out in sales or actually any new career, any
Mm.
endeavor, anything, if you want to be successful in life, I think that the three things. Firstly, find a mentor. So just have your antenna up for someone that's a few years ahead, or maybe many years ahead on the path that you think you might want to be on, and buy them a coffee, pick their brain, and you don't necessarily need to ask, will you be my mentor? But if someone is willing to be your mentor, you'll find they'll naturally take you under your wing. You'll go to them with a problem and some advice, and they'll say, "Oh, there's this," and hey, do you want to get back to me to see whether that worked out? And now all of a sudden you've got a mentor.
Mm.
So I would say get a mentor. Second thing to do is a peer group. Find a bunch of people that are equally committed, equally ambitious, where you can share best practice. These are the things that I've done that are going to help me with my career, blah, blah, blah. Share best practice amongst a peer group. And then the third thing, find a mentee, become a mentor.
And then it becomes like a full-on cycle.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think, and these three groups of people, or these three, it becomes a natural sort of elevator
Yes.
as we go through life. We've always got someone that's a few years ahead of us. We've got our peer group that's traveling with us, and we're helping other people below. Now, you will learn if you do this, you will find you will surprise. I didn't realize this. I just thought, oh, that's a nice idea. But I find I learn at least as much from the people that I am mentoring
Mhm.
as from the people that I consider my mentor. Does that, because they
Yeah.
ask me questions that will really make me think. So that's my
Yeah.
other,
It's
that's
like
my
a
other.
continuous learning experience, but from
Yes.
loads of different areas. I love that's a really good
And
wisdom.
so just society wide as well. I think it's a good pay it forward type thing. If
Give
if
it
it
back.
if and not everyone has to have this mindset, but it's amazing. Just a few people with this mindset, we can change the world. You
Yeah.
know,
Someone's given you a chance, you give that chance to somebody else.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
lovely.
And we can certainly have a big impact in our local environment by having this attitude.
I love that. I love that. We are at time now, so I'm going to say thank you so much,
Thank
Nigel. I
you.
learned so much. I'm going to go away and write out
Oh,
my
thank you.
and maybe do a mood board. I think this has been great. I've learned so much, and I'll make sure to include a link both to your LinkedIn so people can go and connect with you and follow you, and also to the PDF that people can download as well.
Lovely, lovely.
Thanks so
Thanks
much,
so
Nigel.
much, Bridget. It's been a pleasure. Lovely questions. Really, really good. Look forward to being invited back to the next one.
Always.
Thank you. Bye bye.